And from here on out, the game gets crazy. I mean, it's just all over the board. We get low on time, both of us, and it gets absolutely crazy. I rather lose than win. Let's just put it that way. I rather lose this game than win. I'm currently at the Barcelona airport to analyze my chess game in round 8 of the Menorca Chess Open against Azerbaijani 11-year-old girl, Lala Husseinova, who is 11 years old, who's 1900. How is this possible? When I was 11 years old, I had been playing chess for 6 years and I didn't even have a FIDE rating yet. I have the black pieces against the white pieces that go e4 and I respond e5, and after knight f3, knight c6, bishop b5, we get into another re-Lopez. I'm getting like one re-Lopez opening per tournament, so I have to mix it up. I have to give different ingredients by now. So here I go with the very dubious gambit, the Danish gambit, f5. And my opponent surprisingly had it all memorized, even though last time she played it, it was not good. So I attempted to surprise her, but then she went d3, which is the good response. Takes, knight f6, castles, bishop c5, and then she took here. That's the best way to respond to the Danish, or one of the best ways. B takes, and now knight takes e5, gobbling up the free pawn. I castle, now I'm threatening this e4 pawn, and basically black gives up a pawn for good amounts of pressure. So knight c3, the best move. I go with d6, attempting to give a second pawn, and if you take it, it goes into some complications. I think Magnus has played this line with the black pieces. This attacks the knight, and ultimately you will regain the pawn here. If you go for this really bad blunder, knight d5, expecting that on queen takes, there's knight e7 fork and winning the game. Here I can trade knights, and after pawn takes, bishop a6 wins on the spot for the black pieces. And if the queen takes, there's bishop e6 winning the knight on the spot for the black pieces. So my opponent doesn't go for this and goes for the best move, knight a4. And here, the best move is bishop takes f2 check, winning back the pawn after rook takes, pawn takes. But I said to myself, this is extremely uncomfortable for the black pieces. After the queen trade, bishop g5 pressures my knight. I have to go rook d4. White wins another pawn. Oh wait, white wins a pawn, goes like this. And it's hard to win this for the black pieces. I'm playing for a win. I have to win after this dubious tournament at best that I'm having. This is a must win. Like, I'm taking 0 draw offers ever in the, I rather lose than win. Let's just put it that way. I rather lose this game than win. So I can't go into a line that trades queens. When you're going for an absolute win, you have to kind of, bite on some chalk a little bit and suffer. So I go for a tertiary line, not a secondary line, a tertiary line. I go knight takes e4, which is very dubious. It's just giving a pawn for some slight upside. So queen e8, I'm attacking this knight, the knight folds back, and basically I'm a pawn down, but I have this open f-file that's very interesting, and I'll get a bishop on a beautiful diagonal, just like a obscenely crazy good diagonal. So queen g6, already bishop b7 is a bit better. I don't know theory from here on out. It's a tertiary line. I never used this as black. But queen g6, f3, and I go a5 here, which is already another mistake. I have to put more pressure on f3, but I really was discomforted by b4 things. My knight would have to move, and I just didn't love knight d7 and then queen d3 things, immediately trying to trade queens. I was very uncomfortable by this idea, so I go with a5, preventing this b4 push. My opponent goes with bishop e3, and now I go bishop a6. This is weird. Let me know what you think about this in the comments. It could be seen as great play, it could be seen as mediocre play. I hit the rook, right? The rook moves, and now I go back with bishop e7. It's the idea the entire time. I want to take off a defender from the f3 square by placing the rook on e1. She thinks she's getting a rook on an open file, and I'm happy too because I get extra pressure on f3. And if you ever remove a piece from f3 coverage, I'll just take. Bishop f2. My opponent plans to cover this file with bishop g3. It's alarming, but I always have an h5 and also h4 to at least sack a pawn for the open file for when I want it. I try to double rooks. Rook f7, queen d2. Very interesting move. You would think that bishop takes f3 is a free pawn here, but no. Knight takes f3, rook takes would be forced. You have to win the pawn fully, but now queen d5 is a fork. She went with a lot of little tricks like this during the game, and I had to be very careful not to hop into a trap. So rook, oh, I played a4 first. I didn't like this directly because knight b3 things were always allowed. Oh wait, that's true. Oops. But there were things like this which forced a trade, and also this just directly gives a pawn as well. So I go a4, still preventing b4 things, and now also preventing knight b3 things. Rook e3, rook a f8, and from here on out, the game gets crazy. I mean, it's just all over the board. We get low on time, both of us, and it gets absolutely crazy. So rook ae1 is played, and now the rooks are doubling on this file. I don't have much counterplay at this point. I'm getting very worried, because if she manages to trade off pieces, she will get a really nice advantage with this extra f3 pawn. So I have to play accurately. I go h5, which is dubious, but it's hanging in there, I guess. h5's idea is that I want to go queen h6 to pin the rook and queen. If I go queen g5 now with the same idea, I don't love that bishop g3 happens, blocking the file, and after h5 for h4, there's f4 that I saw, and I didn't love this. Oh, there's queen d5, that's true. But I still didn't like this kicking my queen here, and then h3, and my queen is off of this file, so I didn't love that. So anyways, I went with h5, and now if you go bishop g3, I go queen h6. I'm threatening to push h4, and I'm pinning this rook so that I can have like some knight e4 ideas. So very, yeah, behind the scenes idea. Also, if you play rook e8, there's a nasty tactic for the black pieces. For my under 1500 elos, comment in the chat if you find this, pause the video to solve the problem. This is for you. Here, black has the astounding discovered attack. Rook takes f3, sorry. Here we're discovering on this rook here by moving the rook off of f7. And when you take here, I take this and I'm up a pawn. I'm equal now, which is great. And if you take my rook, I can save my rook by taking back. And this would have won a pawn. So she was very conscious of this and played rook e7 instead. Great tactics. Here I take on f3. Yeah, I feel like progressing on the queen side is the best way for white to win this. But rook e7 is still dangerous. I took on f3 and was really wondering, where's the tactic here for white? Where's the tactic here for white? So obviously, white gets rid of my extraordinary light squared bishop and now has a dark squared bishop against my less good knight. So this in the endgame bodes well. But I couldn't find a concrete way where white wins back a pawn or wins a huge advantage in the endgame. So if this was drawn, it would have been okay. I would have tried to push for a win, but yeah. So here there's two options. Bishop takes c5 first, which I liked for white, and then this, king here. But if you take here, now I have a rook f2, and I'm threatening mate. I'm also threatening this pawn here. So your only way out is to take, but this endgame I reckoned was good for black because, well, first of all, I win back the pawn. And these two rooks is really hard to play with when the king is not safe. So the king is medium safe, and I would have reckoned that keeping the queen here is at least, it's a draw here, says the engine, but in real life, black can try to win. So here this line was quite scary for white actually. But after takes, just rook takes, and I thought that this was fine for white. After rook here, queen d5, and white is up a clean pawn. But she didn't go for this. She went for queen d5 check first, which I was very happy to see because that rook takes c7 variation between us is crazy. So I go king h7, and now there's issues. If you take my knight first, I can just go like rook f5 and win back the bishop cleanly instead of just like giving back a pawn and destroying my pawn structure. No, this is like actually not bad. Like rook here, and you have to find this, which is hard to find. I did see it during the game. And then, because if I take and then takes, I can't take because takes and I'm down a piece. So this was a really crazy resource. Rook 7, e5, I would have had to find this. And black holds like an equality here, which is just like absolutely nuts. But yeah, she goes for bishop d4 instead. I mean, if you take and move your queen, if you take and move your queen here, I will just take, and my pawn structure is very clean. I could try to win in this endgame. It would be a huge grind. Yeah, So bishop d4 threatens to win. I have to defend here. And here I realized, okay, where is the win? Where is white winning? She just gave a pawn. Where is the win for white? Like, I'm just like panicking. But really there's almost nothing except for one idea that's really, really strong here. White needs to realize that black has no moves. Like, black legitimately has no moves. And once you realize that, you can afford to play this because white has time. I can't really take because this is awfully strong for the white pieces. It's just like threatening nasty things. I can't move this because I lose a rook, and I can't move this anywhere because I lose the pawn. So black is in the Zugzwang. If you play h3, I have to play like some bad move like knight d7, and now this looks pretty crushing for white. Queen takes, and then queen takes h5, and white has a good advantage. Like, I could lose from this for sure. And instead she takes. This releases tension. When you have all the marbles in the position, trading strong, aggressive pieces for weak, passive pieces is almost never the move, unless you're winning material or something very advantageous. Then she goes for queen c4, defending her pawn while still threatening this. Again, this tactic just runs into rook f5 with full recovery. So queen c4 with the double threat, well, defense and threat, and then I go for knight e4. I'm giving a pawn on a4, but I'm centralizing my knight, and this can be a very good virtue going into kind of like a late middle game, beginning of endgame. My opponent takes the pawn, and now I go for extreme activity. This is the best move. King h1, I didn't see anything for black, but apparently there's rook f4 that's really, really tough to mitigate. White has to find queen a7, and now queen takes c2, and black has a small edge, which is really a cool variation. But here I just went for aggressive chess, which is the nature of the opening anyway. We're far out of the opening, but I think it's pretty good to go with the notion of the opening. I sacked the pawn early on in the game. I get some activity. Here it is, finally. After 27 moves. c5, kicking the bishop. If the bishop goes off this diagonal, now knight g5 is nicer because king here, and then I can go rook f2. Right? Because the bishop is off of this diagonal. So she went with bishop e3, the best move, and now I go with d5, threatening the thrust d4, and she goes with c3. What I have here is a huge initiative as black. I'm making moves that are threatening things and forcing her to defend, which is always a great sign. And you might have realized a key aspect in this position for black, which is why black is okay even though we're down a pawn. It's equals as the engine. I have full compensation for this pawn because of this knight. This is a centralized knight defended by a pawn. White can't do anything about this. You can't attack my knight with a rook. This dark squared bishop can't touch the light squared knight. The queen can't, because it's defended by a pawn, it's basically an iron knight in the center. h4, this is my counterplay. I'm going for h5 to try to blow up, soften up these pawns on the king side. Queen c2, h3, threatening this. And now she makes a mistake, down on time. She has 30 seconds left on the clock. g3 is played. This softens up the king side castle, and now f3 is a square that is available for my rook to go to. Rook f3, playing logical chess. Queen e2, queen g4. I have 19 minutes left, she has 42 seconds left. Queen g4, I'm threatening some good things. On king h1, I have a win that I missed. See if you can solve it. Black to play and win. For my under 2,000 elos, this is your time to shine. Throw it in the comment sections if you found it. Knight takes g3 is an absolute brilliant idea to sacrifice a knight cleanly and then go for the slow queen e4. You see, knight takes g3 was a clearance sacrifice for the square e4. And now I'm threatening all kinds of discoveries with my rook. White can't do much about it. You can try to take a pawn, but now I have rook f1 double check, king h2, and this is checkmate. And if you do nothing about it, if you get out of the discovered attack, there's just rook takes e3 that wins on the spot. You can't take the rook because of checkmate. Unbelievable scenes. I didn't go for this. I went for just like calmness. Queen f5 threatens to take this pawn, and if you take back, I take back with the knight, winning a queen. So bishop f4 is played, and here I find the win. So the bishop relieves this f2 square, very logical chess. We go rook f2, seizing this second rank and targeting this weak h2 pawn. This is good knowledge to tell yourself during the game when you're competing, because on a move like queen b5, you can more easily find the win. Black to play and win, and honestly, the engine does not see it right now on depth 20, stockfish 16. See if you can beat the engine with this. Black to play and win. Pause the video to solve the problem. Everyone who's watching the video can try to solve this. It's a very fun puzzle. I found it and I was pretty happy to see it. Knight takes g3 again is a winning for a completely different reason. This time the rook is taking up e4, so it's not because of this. If you take with the bishop, you uncover this f3 square for my queen, and I can easily checkmate the king very, very fashionably. And if you take with the pawn, which happened in the game, the second rank is weak. That's the concept. So if you follow the logic, the queen move queen c2, also aided by the queen that's completely out of play and cannot check my my exposed king, just threatens a very nice mate in 2 here that is impossible to meet. You can try check. No, you can't try check. Okay, she tried g4 in the game, trying to defend h2, and now rook h2 seals the game. And yeah, you shan't go for rook f1 because queen takes f1 defends the checkmate. So if you thought this, it's not the way to move. Rook h2, sacrificing the rook. I think the engine gave me a brilliant move. Game review definitely gave me a brilliant move at the end of the game. And I'm sacking the rook to clear the square for the g2 queen to go to, and it's checkmate. But my opponent resigned here. Now I have 3 out of